Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. The news broke on a Tuesday morning, sending a jolt through the country before most people had even finished their first cup of coffee. It was the kind of headline that made you stop in your tracks, double-check your phone, and wonder if you'd read it right. Amazon to wind down key U.S. operations. The words seemed almost surreal, echoing across newsrooms and social media feeds. For decades, Amazon had been a fixture in American life. A company so deeply embedded in the fabric of daily routines that its absence was almost unimaginable. For millions, Amazon was woven into daily life. Textbooks for students, birthday gifts for loved ones, groceries and household essentials delivered at lightning speed. It was more than just a retailer, it was a lifeline, a convenience that had become a necessity for families, students, and businesses alike. The idea of it pulling back felt unthinkable, like losing a public utility or waking up to find electricity or running water suddenly gone. People stared at their screens in disbelief, trying to process what this would mean for their everyday lives. Shockwaves rippled from Wall Street to suburban homes. Investors scrambled to make sense of the announcement, while families and workers wondered how their routines would change. The uncertainty was palpable, and the sense of loss immediate. This wasn't just a business story, it was personal. Conversations erupted everywhere, from kitchen tables to office break rooms, as people tried to grasp the scale of what was happening. People wondered, would Prime memberships be worthless now? Would packages stop arriving at their doors? Would the convenience they'd come to rely on simply vanish overnight? The questions kept coming, with few answers in sight. The announcement forced a national conversation about our reliance on a single company. Politicians, business leaders, and everyday Americans debated what it meant for the country's future, and whether it was wise to let one corporation become so essential. Amazon cited a volatile U.S. business environment, years of trade disputes and tariffs making operations untenable. Rising costs, regulatory uncertainty, and global competition had all taken their toll, making it harder for even the biggest players to thrive. This wasn't sudden, it was a slow burn, a giant buckling under economic policies meant to protect American industry. Over time, the pressures had mounted, and the company's retreat became inevitable, a gradual withdrawal rather than a dramatic exit. Ironically, those very policies, designed to strengthen American businesses, were now blamed for driving away one of America's biggest players. The unintended consequences were now on full display, sparking debate about the future of U.S. economic policy. Amazon, once a symbol of U.S. innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, was retreating. The company that had revolutionized shopping, logistics, and cloud computing was now scaling back, leaving a void that would be hard to fill. Born in a garage, it had redefined retail and tech, growing from a humble startup to a global powerhouse. Its story had inspired countless entrepreneurs and reshaped entire industries. Its pullback felt like a step backward for American ambition, a reminder that even the mightiest companies are vulnerable to shifting tides. For workers, customers, and communities, the loss was deeply felt. The decision raised doubts about the U.S. as a hub for world-changing companies. If Amazon could falter, what did that mean for the next generation of innovators? Was America still the land of opportunity, or was something fundamental changing? The headline wasn't just about Amazon, it was a question mark over America's economic future. Investors, policymakers, and citizens alike were left to wonder what would come next, and whether the country could adapt to a new reality. The nation was forced to reckon with the fragility of its modern conveniences. As the dust settled, one thing was clear. The American landscape, both economic and cultural, would never be quite the same again. Amazon's exit wasn't immediate. It was a phased, strategic retreat, carefully orchestrated over months. The company didn't just vanish overnight, instead it began a methodical withdrawal, step by step, signaling a major shift in its global priorities. The first sign came quietly. Expansion of new fulfillment centers was abruptly halted. Construction sites that once buzzed with activity fell silent, leaving half-finished buildings and idle cranes as stark reminders of what could have been. Next-generation delivery drones and autonomous vehicles, once the pride of Amazon's innovation in the U.S., were quietly relocated to Europe and Asia, where the company saw more promise and fewer obstacles. The message was unmistakable. America was no longer Amazon's future. The faded logos and shuttered gates spoke volumes about the company's changing loyalties. The impact was swift and severe. Thousands of construction and tech jobs vanished almost overnight. Workers who had built their lives around Amazon's growth suddenly found themselves packing up their desks and searching for new opportunities. Amazon's job engine, once a symbol of economic stability, sputtered to a halt, unraveling the financial security of countless families. The ripple effect spread quickly as communities dependent on Amazon's presence faced mounting uncertainty. The famed two-day delivery promise, a hallmark of modern convenience, was suddenly no longer guaranteed. Customers who had come to rely on Amazon's speed found themselves waiting days, sometimes weeks, for packages that used to arrive in hours. Rural areas felt the pinch first as delivery times stretched and service became unreliable. For many small towns, Amazon had been a lifeline, and its retreat left a void that no other company could fill. The once seamless Amazon network began to crack under the strain, disrupting the standard of living for millions. What was once effortless became a daily frustration as the company's legendary logistics faltered. Beyond mere inconvenience, Amazon's phased pullback struck a blow to national identity. The company had become woven into the fabric of American life, and its departure left a sense of loss and uncertainty. If Amazon, the titan of e-commerce, couldn't thrive here, what did that mean for other businesses? Small business owners and entrepreneurs began to question their own futures in a changing economic landscape. The phased pullback became a slow-motion crisis for America's self-image, casting a long shadow over communities, industries, and the nation's sense of progress. The echoes of Amazon's retreat would be felt for years to come. To truly understand Amazon's dramatic retreat from its once dominant position, we need to look beyond the headlines and examine the deeper forces at play. At the heart of the story are recent U.S. trade policies, which have reshaped the global business landscape in ways few could have predicted. Aggressive tariffs, originally designed to protect American manufacturing and jobs, instead unleashed a wave of uncertainty and disruption for global companies like Amazon. Amazon, which relies heavily on a vast network of international suppliers, suddenly found itself grappling with skyrocketing costs, unpredictable delays, and logistical nightmares that threatened its famously efficient operations. Tariffs didn't just target a few products, they hit everything from high-tech electronics to everyday clothing, squeezing margins across Amazon's massive inventory. This forced Amazon and its millions of third-party sellers into a painful dilemma: either absorb the higher costs and watch profits shrink, or pass them on to customers through higher prices. The result was a marketplace that became less competitive, with frustrated consumers facing higher prices and at times empty shelves as supply chains buckled under the pressure. Unpredictable policy shifts and the constant threat of new tariffs made long-term planning nearly impossible for Amazon's leadership, undermining confidence and stalling innovation. Amazon's entire business model was built on the foundation of free trade and seamless global logistics, allowing it to deliver products quickly and affordably to customers around the world. But trade wars undermined both pillars, creating bottlenecks at ports, delays in shipping, and a tangled web of new regulations. The resulting volatility was simply too much for a company that operates on razor-thin margins and at an unprecedented scale, making every disruption exponentially more costly. Ironically, the very policies meant to shield the American economy ended up harming some of its most successful champions, like Amazon. With its global supply chain under siege and no end to the uncertainty in sight, Amazon was forced to make tough decisions. Eventually, the risks and mounting costs outweighed the potential rewards, leading to a strategic pullback from key markets and operations. In the end, the decision to retreat wasn't just a business move, it was an inevitable response to a world where trade wars had changed the rules of the game. Amazon's supply chain is a marvel: millions of products, countless suppliers, global reach. But its complexity made it vulnerable to trade disruptions. Tariffs didn't just hit finished goods, they rippled through every layer of production. Amazon and its partners scrambled to reroute supply chains, driving up costs and delays. Shipping snarled, ports clogged, and customs became a nightmare. For Amazon, where speed is everything, these delays were devastating. Retaliatory tariffs from other countries made exporting harder for U.S. sellers. The vision of a seamless global marketplace was crumbling. Economic walls replaced open borders. For Amazon, these barriers threatened its very business model. The public was shocked, but Amazon's retreat was months in the making. Leaked memos revealed a methodical, strategic pivot, not panic. Project North Star outlined shifting investments to Canada, Europe, and Asia. Innovation and jobs were moving abroad. Executives were frustrated by unpredictable U.S. policies. "We cannot build a 10-year supply chain on a 10-minute tweet," one memo read. The instability made long-term investment in the U.S. seem reckless. Amazon wasn't surrendering, it was adapting. The US would remain a market, but not the engine of growth. The memos were a blueprint for surviving a fractured global economy. Amazon's US pullback derailed its ambitious green agenda. The company's climate pledge aimed for net zero carbon by 2040, with massive US investments in electric vehicles and renewables. Tariffs made green tech, solar panels, batteries, wind turbines more expensive. The Rivian electric van deal became tangled in rising costs. Amazon slowed US green investments, accelerating them abroad. America lost not just jobs and innovation, but crucial private sector climate action. Trade policy clashed with environmental goals, stalling a sustainable future. Amazon's retreat sent shockwaves through local economies and small businesses. Cities that once competed for Amazon investments faced sudden downturns. Small businesses relying on Amazon's platform saw sales and competitiveness drop. The engine that empowered entrepreneurs was sputtering. The bigger blow, America's reputation as an innovation hub was tarnished. Venture capital and talent began looking elsewhere. Less investment meant fewer startups and jobs. The US risked losing its edge in tech and e-commerce. Amazon's pullback was a warning. Isolation comes at a steep price. The Amazon saga forces a tough question. Do protectionist policies help or hurt progress? Tariffs aim to boost domestic industry, but in a global economy, lines are blurred. Amazon's case shows that protecting one sector can harm another. The tariffs meant to help US industry ended up hurting an American champion. True strength may come from fostering innovation, not building walls. Winning today means investing in education, research, and infrastructure. Embracing global competition drives progress. Some industries saw short-term gains, but the broader cost was high. America lost jobs, investment, and a piece of its innovative edge. The lesson: economic strength comes from being the best place for new ideas to grow.